What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another 5-minute preview here on the channel. This week we take on Lincoln City, of course. Another away day, back-to-back away games for Carlisle. Two quite far away games as well, to be fair, back-to-back, which isn't ideal for our fan base. But I'm sure that we will pack out that away end as always. But it is Lincoln City versus Carlisle in Sky Bet League 1 at the LNER Stadium at Lincoln. Now let's meet the opposition then. Lincoln were founded in 1884. Their current manager is Mark Kennedy, and of course their stadium, as just mentioned, is the LNER Stadium, which holds 10,669 miles to from Stadium to Stadium. It's not as much of a trek as Stevenage was, but it's still 181 miles one way from stadium to stadium. Last season they finished 11th with 62 points in League 1, and this season they're coming into 8th with 11 points. They've had quite a good start to the season, to be fair, Lincoln. And, you know, we've started to go into this season as well now. Obviously, we had that game at the weekend. But looking at the previous 5 games, then there's actually going to be 6 games for Lincoln because the Oxford game was postponed. So I have to put that in there as well. But I've noticed that Lincoln are a very goal-happy team. They can score a lot of goals, which is something that maybe Carlisle have lacked this season so far. Their game there, Northampton 2-2. They then beat Shrewsbury 1-0. They battered Blackpool 3-0, which is a big result. And then speaking of big results, they got that win in the EFL Cup over Premier League Sheffield United. 0-0 with a 3-2 win on penalties. They then drew 1-1 with Bristol Rovers, and then that Oxford game was postponed at the weekend due to international call-ups, but I thought I'd just put it in there as well, but not count it as one of the 5 because it technically wasn't played. And of course, Carlisle have got that 2-0 loss to Exeter, 1-0 loss to Port Vale, 2-1 win over Shrewsbury, 1-0 defeat in the Papa John's Trophy against Accrington, and then we had the 2-2 game at the weekend against Stevenage. So we've started to find our goal scoring mainly off the bench. Obviously Sean Maguire's contributed a couple, but Joe Garner's been the main source of goals at the minute. But Lincoln seem very goal happy. They seem like they can score a few goals this season, which is obviously what you need to win football games. So that's maybe something to look out for when we go into it. Into the head-to-head then, what I found actually quite interesting, the Carlisle's first game against Lincoln was in 1928, and we've played them a lot of times in the 1930s and the 1960s. We're only going to go back to 2003, but in our previous history we haven't played them that often. Last game was in 2021. And then mainly just cup games. League 2 around 2018. As you can see, there's a picture of Anthony Gerrard on your screen there, so that shows how long ago that was. But yeah, moving into the meeting the teams, and we've got a familiar face in the Lincoln team, and that is of course Lucas Jensen. Of course, Carlisle signed him in that 2021-22 season under Chris Beach, and it was from Burnley, I believe, a 1-year loan deal that was, and he only made 1 appearance for Carlisle, but he is a familiar face for us. Players to watch then, I have picked out Lincoln's centre attacking midfielder, the Irishman Danny Manduro. He has scored 2 goals and got 3 assists this season. And I think he's probably the player to look out for the most. I think he seems a quality player in that midfield, maybe sort of a Jordan Gibson type of role. So he's the player I picked for Lincoln. And then, of course, the player I picked for Carlisle, it's got to be Joe Garner. Of course, scored against Shrewsbury very late on, and then scored against Stevenage very late on as well, coming off the bench. I can't see him starting because I think his position is a bench player, and then come off the bench and go from there. But you never know. You never know this season. Our starting 11 seems to be all over the place. But if I was to pick a starting 11, I would go with an unchanged 11. I think apart from the goalkeeper, because there's going to be a debate over Hawley and Andreasen probably all season, but I think that's our strongest 10 outfield players on the pitch. So we've run with Andreasen in net with a back 5 of Finn Back, Jack Armour, Sam Lavelle, Paul Huntington and John Mellish, with Callum Guy and Owen Moxon in the midfield, Jordan Gibson in attacking midfield with Sean Maguire and Joshua Coyote up top, with a bench of Luke Plange, Thomas Hawley, Terry Blade, Joe Garner and Dylan McGeoch, Jaden Harris and Alfie McCalmont. Now, my only concern, as I've said quite a few times this season, is the midfield. I think we get overrun in the midfield quite easily, but I'm thinking sort of an unchanged team. Now I won't move a 1-1. I think it'll be a tough trip down to Lincoln, But judging off the, it was a smash and grab against Stevenage, but we stayed in the game long enough to get a point, and I think it might be a case of the same again against Lincoln. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're new here, why not subscribe for some weekly Sky Bet League 1 content, mainly looking at Carlisle reviews, previews, and so much more. But thank you so much for watching. I have been C-Wolf, and I'll see you in the next one.
I never miss, that's fact. Taking big swings, hand me the bat. Put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag. Cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light.